Welcome to the GRN, the Growth and Resilience Network, where every episode brings you targeted stories and strategies about professional and personal growth and resilience. The intent of each episode is to educate, energize, and equip you with information and hopefully a bit of wisdom to apply in your life and within your community. Hi, I'm Steve Piscitelli, your host, coming to you from my headquarters, my world headquarters here in Atlantic Beach, Florida. Now, I cannot describe how excited I am today to offer this bonus podcast episode. You see, my latest book, Community as a Safe Place to Land, has been released. The book builds on 7 core values for purpose and growth, 7 core values that can help communities grow: relationships, relevance, resources, rainbows, responsibility, reflection, and resilience. They all interconnect and support one another. As followers of this podcast channel know, each of the book's 7 sections opens with a transformational story about community. Now, during the writing of the book, I had the opportunity and honor to visit with the amazing people who make up those stories. That resulted in 7 podcast episodes. And by the way, you can access each live episode through my website at stevepiscitelli/media-broadcast/podcast. This episode features one short clip from each of those stories. The order in which you will hear these clips represents the order you will find their stories in the book. So let's get started. When we think about community, we think about relationships. You see, they're the building block, the foundation. This transformational story highlights the amazing resurrection of the Asbury Memorial United Methodist Church in Savannah, Georgia. You see, when the Reverend Billy Hester arrived as the minister in 1993, the church had about 25 souls total. Today, about 650. In this clip, Reverend Hester and his lay leader of the congregation, Preston Hodges, explained the core values that support meaningful relationships and that help to create a community as a safe place to land. Are there some other values that you see as the foundation for this community to build from 25 to 650 and 250 plus on any given service in the church? Okay, is it simply the relationships and the caring, and that this is genuine and authentic?
Well, you kind of gave 2 words that come to my mind that have been really important here: are acceptance and authenticity. Those 2, I think, speak so much of what we try to be about here: acceptance and authenticity. And because I think those are 2 things that a lot of people haven't felt from the church. A lot of times they felt not included. And then even people, I'm not just talking about people who are homosexual, but just people in general feeling like they have to pretend to be something they're not in church.
Yeah, and to be clear, this church isn't just a church for LGBT.
Right.
That's a part of your population.
Yeah, maybe 35%, 40%, something like that.
Yeah. Would you want to add to that, Preston?
I just finished a book called Sapiens. You might be familiar with it. It's written by an Israeli historian. The subtitle is A Brief History of Humankind. Fascinating book. He raised the question at some point, what was it that enabled European civilization to leap so far ahead of the rest of the world and move into the scientific revolution that changed the world? And he said it was an I don't know attitude. I think that's another value that's very much a part of this church, at least from my perspective. When I first came here, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I commented to Billy something to the effect that, we don't say the Apostles' Creed. And rather than give me some kind of explanation as why we don't, Billy said, well, what do you think about that? It's that freedom to explore your own religious path. And everybody, can't say everybody, I think the vast majority of people here are in a search. They're on a path trying to have a better understanding of what they believe and what they don't believe.
A community must be relevant to its members. Why join or belong if it does not help you grow? And can you help others grow? Well, the Clara White Mission in Jacksonville, Florida gets that. Now here you will hear the CEO, the president, Jacoby Pittman, tell us how they have, at that mission, built a community by listening to everyone's story and then moving from that starting point forward. How do you do that with a transient population? Because one thinks of a community of people that are together over and over and over again, and you build this inclusiveness and camaraderie, and we're going to help one. How do you do that when they're in, out, in, out?
Well, I think, first of all, from what I hear from the clients is that they trust Clara White Mission.
Trust big.
And they feel if they come here for help, not just for a meal, but if they're ready to transition their life from the streets to more of being a productive citizen, that Clara White Mission is the place to do that. We treat everybody with respect. Everybody has a story. And it's important that we listen and not just provide services, but provide the services that are impactful and visual. So again, in order to do that, you have to have
How does your community know what resources are the important ones? The ones that will connect with community members. The bold leader leads by asking and listening. Now listen to Gloria Neese, the executive director of the Celebration Foundation in Celebration, Florida, explain. And as she correctly reminds me in this clip, it takes more than a leader. One of the most powerful resources a community has is its people. How does your community build on and nurture that powerful resource? You're advising, you're consulting with a community to establish something like this. What are the top three things, you got to have?
You need bold vision. You need somebody who's going to be the catalyst and is willing to step out of their comfort zone, because it's not an easy program, to launch. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and so you need somebody that's really ready to tackle it and do it and take charge of it and gather great people and listen to those people and say, yep, that sounds like a good plan. Let's do that. And
you've said that twice now. Once you asked what they needed. You didn't tell them what they needed. And again, you're saying you got to listen. That is so key to any kind of a leader, a good leader, a transformational leader.
First things that we did before and Eileen is part of this, we actually had a town hall where we had table captains, and we had about 100 and some odd people, a full room, and we said, if we develop this program, what would be important for you to see in that program? And we had scribes at every table, and they took down the information, and then there was a report out, and then we took that as kind of the basis for what our program was what we were going to start with. So it was getting the whole community involved, well, not the whole community, but those that were interested, being able to say this is what they wanted to see. But then you need that person, the visionary, the catalyst that makes it happen.
Yeah, and the visionary is listening to the people.
Yes.
You're not coming, it doesn't sound like you're coming in with Gloria's vision. You might have an idea of but I love it. You got them at a town hall, you sit them down, and say, now brainstorm, talk. Have a conversation.
Okay, now I'm going to correct you because it was my board. We had formed a committee, really, really smart people, in the community. Eileen, Paul Kinzer, Mary.
So it
Ann
wasn't
Kinzer.
just Gloria.
It wasn't just Gloria. No.
Gloria has a team. I have used rainbows as a metaphor for dreams, for one's vision, for a community's vision. Now, in this short clip, you'll hear about how one community, Atlantic Beach, Florida, helps neighbors to connect with neighbors at a monthly musical event. Now, for some, it moves them toward a musical or performing career, toward that aspiration. Now, for others, like the listening audience at each event, well, you see, they get to enjoy the opportunity to share their rainbows, maybe other rainbows, like rainbows about the neighborhood schools, their careers, their families, with the people sitting next to them, neighbors listening to neighbors, neighbors talking with neighbors, and neighbors supporting neighbors. Listen to one of the original organizers and still the musical host more than 15 years later, Mike Shackelford, describe what has happened at these events and because of these events. And by the way, you're going to hear both of us refer to a young lady named Izzy. At the end of this episode, stick around, you'll be treated to Izzy performing one of her original songs that she debuted at one of these events. What do you see the value of something like a songwriter's night? What does it do for a community to have this venue sponsored by the city of Atlantic Beach, Florida? Every month, it's clockwork. It's here, you're here, lights go on at 6, lights go off at 8. What's the value?
I think the value, if you go back to the original mission statement that we had when we created this event and the city signed off on it, it was to try to reach out not only to the professional community, music community, but also to reach out to folks who perhaps maybe through the years had put their guitar in the closet. That was fun when I was in college, but I'm making a living now. I don't have time to do that. So we wanted to offer a platform that would give those folks an opportunity to say, hey, maybe this is a place that I can go and dust off my guitar and go tune it up and go see what if I still have it. And I think what we did by doing that, because we created an environment that was run by a professional musician, which I'm grateful for being chosen to do that, and to be sort of the caretaker of this event. You have that, and you have people who are novices. You have people that have played before but no longer played, and then they're coming back around. The most beautiful thing about it for me, though, has been the people who were so petrified to get up on stage the first time they came, and took them months sometimes to even come up and even write a song or play an acoustic night, and they're part of the regular rotation now.
And some of them got into bands as a result.
Yes, there have been bands that spawned from all of this. There have been, kids who come in. There are a lot of really talented, I say kids, I'm talking like under 10 years old when they started playing. And, one of them lives in L.A. now, our buddy Dalton Sear, doing his thing in movies and music. We have other folks around town. Little Izzy has gone from barely being able to talk on stage to being quite
and she's going to be a
it.
part of this podcast.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
So I see that as the extreme inherent value of this, and I think that the city, because they have fostered the same environment by allowing us to be here and really working hard to make each year better than the last year, and that to me is a very important thing. And that's the most beautiful thing about it for me, because you're seeing people's, like they dream about what they started playing guitar when they were a kid, dreaming to be the Beatles or whoever the band at the time was, and then they go off and do it and do their school and work, and now they're back with the chance to play some of those songs that they dreamed about playing, and play them for people their age and younger. That's the other thing. It's such a diverse crowd of people that come in here.
By now, you probably have noted a commonality in the previous clips. You've heard people talk about asking, listening, respecting, and building relationships. You'll hear that message in the beginning of this clip with Newtown Success Zone Director George Maxey. Listen further, and you'll hear the next important variable that Maxey shares with us. What do you want? And more importantly, what are you willing to do to get what you want? In a word, responsibility.
A chance where we can sit down and create an organization called Vision Keepers. And the reason why I created the Vision Keepers is because in my mind is to really get this village concept off the ground, people have to have a say-so, but they have to be part of something greater than themselves where they can get together and talk about this village concept for children. So how can we protect the vision of our children and youth? How can they be vanguards for the children and youth of our community? So February 16th of 2016, we had our first Vision Keeper meeting. And, started off with about 20 people, and we had rich discussion on where we want to see our community at. And some people asked me, why didn't we utilize the African-American church? A good example, we have 16 churches in Newtown, and it's 1.2 mile radius. We got 16 churches, but none of the churches were really true partners. And, and me trying to reach out to many of the churches, I didn't get the participation I was looking for. So instead of going after the pastors of the churches, I went after the parishioners. I went after the individuals who go to the church. That means the people who live in the community. And what we were able to do is by utilizing them and asking them specifically, what do you want? But more importantly, what are you willing to do to get what you want? Because accountability starts at home. Level of sacrifice starts at home. It just can't be a gripe session about what you don't have. What are you willing to do to get what you need to be successful?
Communities need leadership, effective transformational leadership. Listen to community leaders and activists Linda and Michael Lanier explain how the leader must reflect and be the grown-up in the room. The grown-up in the room.
But, there's the saying, always be the bigger person. Not get down in the cat fight with the others. That somebody's got to be the grown-up in the room. And always be the more honorable person.
Yeah.
The one who is the most fair, who is the most honest, who is the kindest, who is the most respectful. Mm-hmm. Always be that. For one thing, as a role model, and if you're the leader of the group, it does set the tone.
And everybody's got their own thoughts on them.
Yeah,
you got to keep all that in mind and share what you have, but also draw out. And
good point.
And the last thing I would say, and this is something in our 30-plus years of marriage has worked so well for Linda and I. Kindness is always the better option than righteousness. And if you can approach whatever the disagreement, whatever the disappointment, whatever the joy from kindness, it's always going to go better.
Reflect on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be righteous and beat somebody to death with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And righteousness is often, I think, the enemy.
What helps people when going through trauma? Difficult times. What helps them be resilient? My guests for this episode have been major forces within the Jacksonville, Florida community and beyond with breast cancer awareness and support. Bobby DeCordova Hanks, founder of Bosom Buddies, sums it up with her mantra, "What, you too? I thought I was the only one." TV 12 news anchor and the force behind the 25-plus years of Buddy Check 12 also has found that conversation is critical. She calls it the echo of a voice. You see, once the conversation gets started, no one can stop it. Listen to both explain.
My mantra, I'm too busy to die. It's not on my calendar. No other woman will wear my jewelry. They can tell you that verbatim.
There's a mindset, obviously.
Mindset.
There's a mindset.
And it's interesting about the mindset because I truly believe that the mind-body connection is so important, just as important as the medical treatment. I had everything. I had crystal healing, Reiki healing, healing touch. I had every type of treatment that you could think of. And one of my favorite doctors said to me, if you're going to do all that mumbo jumbo, I'm not going to treat you anymore. I said, really? I said, why don't you look at the results of that mumbo jumbo? In the end, it's in my book where he said, people who come through Bosom Buddies and go along with all that mumbo jumbo do better than anybody else I've ever seen in my practice. He became a believer.
Yeah. So what is it? Is it the mumbo jumbo?
Right.
Or is it the fact that there are others pursuing the mumbo jumbo with you and have in the past, and you believe will in the is it that piece that helps, or is it you can't separate any one, it's all together?
Okay, the motto of Bosom Buddies is what? You too? I thought I was the only one. That
Say that
says
again.
it in a nutshell.
Say that again.
What? You too? I thought I was the only one. Friendship is born when one says, what? You too? I thought I was the only one. I mean, I have gone to hospice.
And she'd been doing these self-exams faithfully, never found anything. And then she found a lump that felt like a craisin, you know, kind of a dried up, firm cranberry. And so we always talk about a lump being firm or hard. And every time we're consistent, we have been consistent with that message. And getting nitty gritty. What does a lump feel like? Where's the number 1 spot on your breast for breast cancer? Where's the number 2 spot for breast cancer? The upper outer quadrants 1, around the nipples number 2. Just really digging into the earthy details. And then also, we go out a lot. We speak to groups constantly. Last October, I think I spoke at 31 different places because you meet women who say, I did breast cancer, I did buddy check too, and they stand up and they tell the whole room of their fellow employees, and see, there's the link. I didn't know Betty Jo had breast cancer. She stands up there in tears and said, you guys, you got to do this. I'm alive because I did buddy check. It's just that echo of the voice. It's giving everybody a voice. I mean, I can't tell you how many women I've met. I met a woman when I was in Amsterdam, and she said her mother died of breast cancer, and she's had breast cancer, and she never really talked about it. And I said, you have a powerful voice.
Yeah.
Think how many lives you can save. So it's the nitty-gritty. It's telling women to rise up and talk about it because people will honor what you're saying.
And when those people get up, it makes it relevant.
Yeah.
This is not just a news story.
No, it's their friend at work. That's what's important.
Earlier, you heard my buddy Mike Shackelford tell us about the power of a community music event. I'm going to close this bonus episode here on the Growth and Resilience Network with a performance by 12-year-old Izzy Moon Mayforth. She told me she likes that people listen to her music and that she gets to listen to others and learn from them about songwriting and performing. And because of the community, she gains confidence, and that fuels personal agency. As Izzy sings in her original composition, It Rained Today. You're my friend, and I love you.
Today, and the skies were gray. Oh, but when I saw you smile, it made me feel okay, because you're my friend and I love you. It rained today, and the birds came out to play. They danced all day and chirped and swayed.